Hey everyone, and welcome back to diabetesdietguide.com, or if you're watching on YouTube, you're just as welcome. If you don't know me, I'm Mark Green, specialist dietitian working in diabetes, and I'm here to talk about why you might not be seeing the results from your exercise regime that perhaps you'd be expecting. So this isn't for the 20-something-year-old personal trainers who are training 5+ times a week for long durations and will tell you that you can do it all just by doing weight training, because they are controlling their diet very specifically, and anyone who's telling you otherwise isn't being truthful with you. So this video is beyond the scope of looking at things like gaining muscle mass to increase your basal metabolic rate, because muscle burns fat in the long run, because these people are also very carefully controlling their diet, and it's not the usual patient cohort that I'm seeing, okay? So the people I'm really talking to here are those that are perhaps trying to get a bit more active. Maybe you're going to the gym 2, 3, 4 times per week for an hour, or you're getting out for some walks, and maybe they're lasting somewhere between 30 to 60 minutes. Now, you may have made a few dietary changes, and perhaps you've seen some success with your weight loss, but you still can't understand why it's not at the pace that you were hoping to see, because to your mind, you're doing enough and you're starting to get active, and yet the weight is still slow or creeping down gradually, or even at a stalemate or plateaued. So I've run a little experiment just to highlight why this might be. And I think it's epitomised very nicely by this picture. Now, as you can see, this is a session I did on the treadmill, just as a little case study. And just to put it on the board here, I've ran for 30 minutes. And in that time, I've burned 508 calories. And that's an average pace of just over 12 kilometers an hour at a 1% incline. So it's a pretty reasonable pace for me. I'm able to sustain it, but it's not overly comfortable. So it's going probably above moderate intensity, but it's definitely not high intensity, because there's no way I could sustain high intensity for a duration of 30 minutes. So let's say that we're working off an hour session then. So if I continue to run at that pace of 30 minutes for an hour, the calories in the hour would be 1,016 calories for that session. Now, as a healthcare professional, a very rough and loose estimate that I'm trying to work off is to reduce someone who's trying to lose weight calorie intake, or their energy expend or increase their energy expenditure by 500 to 600 calories per day. So you're either burning it up or you're losing it from the diet. And that's generally what is in line with national guidelines to help people lose weight. Don't get me wrong, weight loss is a much more complex area than just the numbers, but roughly speaking, that's what I'm trying to do mentally, one way or another. So we know in this session, if we're doing an hour, best case scenario, constant movement, running on a treadmill, supporting my body weight, about 1,000 calories in that session. So now let's say if I reduce the intensity, the calories are going to go down. If I did a shorter duration cardiovascular workout, less running, then the total calories is going to come down. Perhaps I'll do some resistance training, which again is in line with physical activity guidelines nationally. You want to be doing at least 2 times a week of resistance training. And I'm not saying don't do the resistance training. It is an essential component of any fitness plan, and it does help with losing weight. But if you're someone that's not particularly versed in going to the gym, for example, then you might not be working at the same intensities as your peer who has been going for many years, lifts very heavy weights, and knows exactly what they're doing. So again, I'm talking to the kind of people that work off maybe that 10 to 20 repetition range. They're not overly pushing themselves, and between sets, they kind of sit on the machine and wait, all right? So those type of people, if you're doing less than an hour continuous movement, and then you go on to resistance training and you're kind of resting in between, we already can see that you're not going to be burning up nearly as much calories as someone who's actually put in quite a bit of a shift, because this wasn't easy. And ultimately then we can start to get rough estimates of the type of calories that you're expending. Now, if you're only doing this 2 to 3 times a week and you are actually hitting this 1,000 calories, then best case scenario, you're doing 3,000 calories for the week, which I'm going to need my calculator for this, regrettably. Works out about 428 calories per day on average over the week from exercise. And that's best case, okay? So then if you're not doing this and you're doing less, then the average is going to come down. So working off that 500 to 600 calories per day average of either cutting back on the diet or increasing the physical activity, you're not meeting what I'm trying to do with you or what the national guidelines are recommending. Now let's assume that you're not in the gym and you're not going for a run. In fact, now you're just going for a walk, which is definitely great and beneficial. And again, part of national guidance, we want people to do 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week at a moderate intensity, which is a brisk walk. But that's about disease reduction, not weight loss. So a 30-minute walk is going to be much less than this calorie expenditure, much less. You're probably looking at around 200 calories if you're lucky. So then actually looking at our average week, particularly if you're not doing it every day, then how many calories are you burning up on average per day? It's not going to be a huge amount. So then the knock-on effects for your weight loss isn't going to be tremendous, which is why many people I see in clinic who think they're doing enough aren't actually reaching the numbers that they think they should be. I should point out, this is an estimate in terms of the calories burned because the machine doesn't ask for your weight. So it's just taking it off probably the average person, and lighter people will burn less calories than this, heavier people will burn more calories than this. But you tend to find that the heavier people, not all of them, struggle to get the same intensity because if they're heavier, just by definition, unless they're a 6'9" monster who can do cardio all day, you'll more than likely find that they may be carrying some fat mass, which means they might not necessarily be the fittest of individuals, so they might not be able to get up and around the same intensities that someone like myself, for example, who maybe trains 5 times a week and kind of has that as their baseline, so has a good routine with it. So it might be more or less, but let's just take that as a rough estimate. So hopefully that kind of just helps you tune in a little bit as to why you might not be quite seeing the results from your exercise regime as you would expect. And really the way to do it isn't to take it personally and think, well, what's the point, and give up. It's about redoubling the efforts, trying to figure out how you can increase that calorie expenditure or tighten up the diet further to further increase the results that you'd like to see. Now you can always work with professionals or go see your local dietitians or a nutritionist privately. Obviously on my website, which at the time of filming is being redeveloped, but coming soon, is a program all about how you can reduce your calorie intake and reduce your carbohydrate intake. There is a fee attached to it. It's £90 for a lifetime membership, but it is there to give you guidance about how to cut it in the diet. And also there are videos and education videos and things on the program and on the course that teaches you everything you really need to know about type 2 diabetes and how to think about exercise in a more complex manner as well. So I hope you found that useful, at the risk of waffling on, so I'll leave it there. So remember, if you do have any questions or comments, do post them below. Always happy to pick up questions as I see them. And if anyone else has any input, please feel free to get involved. So I'll leave it there, and I hope you have great days, and I'll see you later.